Hi, I'm Attorney Ben Schwartz, and today I'm going to answer a viewer question. John from Laurel, Delaware wrote in and he asked, what's your advice for dealing with police when pulled over for speeding? And I can answer this question, but before I do, I want to make clear that this has only to do with getting pulled over for speeding. It does not have to do with getting pulled over for DUI. It does not have to do with getting pulled over because you've got 100 kilos of cocaine in the trunk of the car. It does not have to do with getting pulled over because you're driving a white Bronco and you got O.J. Simpson in the car. This only has to do with speeding. You know, it would be a different legal answer for any of those other scenarios. But in a speeding case, the idea is that you want to make the police officer feel as comfortable as possible, and the way to do that is you make the police officer feel as safe as you possibly can. So I've got some tips for how to do that. Number one is when you're driving down the road, you might be going a couple over, you might be going more than a couple over, and you see the flashers from the police car in your rearview mirror. What you want to do is you want to let the police officer know that you acknowledge that he or she is behind you and you're going to pull over as soon as it's safe to do so. The way to do that is you put on your flashers, you put on your hazard lights, and you slow down. If you're going, if you're in a 65 mile an hour zone, you might slow down to say 40 miles an hour and start looking for a place to pull over. You're going to look for a place to pull over where it's a wide enough shoulder that you can get safely far enough over for the police officer to come alongside. 2, make sure that you get your driver's license, your registration, and your proof of insurance out and put them on the dash. That way you don't have to go rifling through your purse, you don't have to go rifling through the glove compartment to try and find the documentation that the police officer asks you for. 3, roll your window down if it's tinted, and that way the officer can see you as he or she is coming alongside of your vehicle. If it's dark out, if it's a dark rainy day, or if it's nighttime, then you might want to turn the light on in addition to rolling down the window, and that way the police officer can see you. The most important thing is that the officer can see your hands, because the police officer has been trained that if he can't see your hands, his life is in jeopardy. He doesn't know. You might be reaching for a gun, you might be reaching for a knife. The cops have to deal with all kinds of crazies out there, and what you want to do is make sure he can see your hands. So tip number 4 is put your hands at 10 and 2 on the wheel, and that way the cop can see where they are. And number 5, don't volunteer anything. If the officer asks you for a license and registration, you hand the license and registration. You don't take the insurance card and give it to the cop. You give exactly what you're asked for. If you're asked a question such as, do you know why I pulled you over? The answer is, no ma'am, no sir, I don't know why. Go ahead and tell me. Don't volunteer, well, I was going 35 over, because now you've just admitted guilt. Those are my best 5 tips for dealing with a police officer when you're pulled over. The whole point is make it safe and easy for the officer, and you're not going to have control over the outcome, but at least you can have a little influence over the outcome. That said, what if you get into a situation where the police officer is hyper-aggressive? What if you realize after you've been pulled over for speeding that the officer doesn't just want to issue you a speeding ticket? They pull you out of your car maybe and they start acting hostile and suspicious. What do? Well, in that situation, there are 3 things that I want you to know. They're your 3 constitutional legal rights. Number 1 is you have the right to remain silent. Number 2 is you have the right to an attorney. When you combine those 2 rights, it gives you the opportunity, it gives you the ability that when the police officers start asking you questions, you can say, I want to remain silent, I want my attorney, I'm not answering any questions, I'll be respectful about it, but I'm not answering any questions without my attorney present. And when the police hear that you have requested an attorney, you've invoked your constitutional right to counsel, you've invoked your constitutional right to remain silent, they have to stop asking any questions. They have to stop any interrogation. The third right is that you need to know that police officers can hold you for a very brief period of time, but they can't detain you, they can't arrest you unless they have some evidence to suggest that you've committed a crime. That's called probable cause, or PC. Without probable cause, they can't hold you forever. So if you are being detained on the side of the road, you know you might have been speeding, but you're not doing anything else. The police officers are there, they've got you pulled over on the side of the road. You can ask them, officer, I've got to go on my way. Am I free to leave? And that's a good question to ask if you've been stopped. Am I free to leave? Because if the answer is no, that means you're being detained. And if they don't have some evidence, or they don't come up with some evidence in short order, they've got to let you go. It lets them know that you know your rights if you ask, am I free to leave? So those are the three things you should know if you are dealing with a hostile or aggressive police officer who's pulled you over for speeding. I want to say that you should always, always be respectful, and you should never be confrontational with a police officer. Even if you feel like they're being hostile when you're stopped, they're the ones that hold all the cards. They're the ones that are in control. And so if you think about it, you realize as a citizen, it's important to know your rights. It's important to enforce your rights, but you're not truly in control of the situation. The best you can hope for is to have some influence over the outcome, and by being respectful, by being calm, by keeping in mind that what the officer really wants to do is not necessarily arrest you or harass you, but what they really want to do is go home safely to their family at the end of the day. And if you keep that in mind, you may find that the outcome is better than it could have been. My name is Ben Schwartz. I'm an attorney. I represent police officers. I represent police chiefs. I also represent plenty of people who have been charged with criminal offenses and gone through the system. So you could say I represent both the cops and the robbers, and I can tell you that if you are coming in contact with police, the best way to handle yourself is to keep in mind what they're focused on, and that is their own safety. I hope you enjoyed this video. Email me, let me know your thoughts. My email address is ben.schwartz@schwartzandschwartz.com. You can comment on the video on Facebook. We're at facebook.com/schwartzandschwartz. Hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you found the information useful. Let me know what you think.